Hey everybody, this is Harvey Sunny Wasserman back for the 200 and something Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition. We've been going for 6 years. You'd think I need to know the number by now. We have a great lineup today. There's a ton going on. We're joined by T, who's going to talk to us in a few minutes, but we're going to start with Patrick Reynolds, who I reserved quite a while ago. LYNN FEINERMAN will introduce T. And I want to have John Steiner join with us. Patrick Reynolds is going to talk to us about donating to election campaigns, and we're going to talk with him and John Steiner about alternatives, especially funding grassroots organizing. It's been a big day. We had two actually positive pieces of news. John Fetterman, the shall we say, eccentric. Poor people are crazy, rich people are eccentric. This guy's eccentric. John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania, has announced he's going to stick by the filibuster, which we desperately need to have happen to prevent the SAVE Act from going through and completely decimating our elections. And we also, amazingly enough, had a statement from Gorsuch, near Gorsuch, the one of the Supreme Court justices, who finally came to the realization that the United States was not founded as a Christian nation. That in fact, most of the founders of the Constitution, most of the writers of the Constitution, weren't Christian at all. Started by Ben Franklin, Tom Jefferson was Unitarian, James Madison, John Adams, Abigail Adams, Tom Paine. None of these people were Christians. And finally, Neil Gorsuch, a Supreme Court justice, has come to that conclusion. As to Mr. Gorsuch, all I can say is Mazel Tov. In the second hour, we're going to go deep, deep, deep into nuclear power because the President of the United States has taken over all nuclear regulatory functions, and he is abolishing health safety regulations and on an industry where he personally profits. It's quite shocking. We have three great people, experts to talk about it. Myra Reeson, who's already with us, Carl Grossman, and Kevin Camps. That's going to be a deep dive. And we're also going to talk about the Michigan Senate race where the Palisades nuclear plant is also on the line. So, T, I hope you with this will hold. I hope you'll hold with us for a while. I promised Patrick Reynolds he'd come on with us. Patrick Reynolds is quite an amazing guy. Patrick, are you with us? So speak up if you would, Patrick Reynolds. Hello, Patrick, you there? And Carl Grossman, you're there. And I think John Steiner is also with us. We're going to talk specifically about the nature of campaign funding. And Patrick Reynolds, if you're there, we will come to you.
You could turn your camera on, Pat, if you can.
Patrick, we're going to be able to see you here, guy. I do want to extend a friend of mine. Carly Simon, the great rock and roll singer, announced today that she has both Parkinson's and cancer. And Carly, we wish the best to you. We hope you're okay. Love your mother, love your brother, love your sisters, and we love you. So I hope you can get through this, Carly, because we're all with you.
There you go.
Patrick, are you with us?
He's here.
Hey, Patrick, Patrick Reynolds, glad to have you with us. John Steiner, also one of the great experts in campaign funding. T, we look forward to your presentation. You'll be introduced by LYNN FEINERMAN. But Patrick Reynolds, you have an astonishing story. It's really great to meet you. And I want to thank Eileen Proctor for bringing us to you. You are the grandson of RJ Reynolds. You were born into a tobacco family, but you became a tremendously important activist against smoking. It's like if I'd been, born into a chicken family, I'd go out campaigning against chickens. And you probably, of all of us, have saved thousands of lives by going very, very public with the dangers of smoking. So we want to express our admiration for you and welcome you on board. And I will tell you that the only time I ever smoked cigarettes was when I was also smoking pot. And I will say that pot did lead me to a more dangerous drug, which was cigarettes. And thankfully, I was able to get rid of both of them. But at any rate, you have testified in public. You've spoken worldwide about the dangers of smoking. And now you're telling us that you're going to do some funding on campaigning in the upcoming election. And we are all about two issues on these calls: election protection and stopping nuclear power. And that will be in the second part. But in the first part, you have come to us because you are wanting to fund some campaigning. Now, we are nonpartisan. We are not pro-Democrat or pro-Republican. We are pro-democracy. And so you have the right, of course, to sponsor some ads. You wanted to talk about them. And then John Steiner and I want to talk to you about different forms of campaign funding, which we have discussed in deep detail with Ray McClendon and others on these calls. So, Patrick, tell us where you're at now. Oh, Patrick, I think you're muted, buddy.
His mic isn't working.
Your mic isn't working, Patrick. So please figure out how to work your mic there.
Hey, Harvey, before Patrick comes on, and I hope he can hear this, he also reminds me of John Robbins, who wrote Diet for a Small Planet, who came from the Baskin and Robbins family, and essentially talked about how bad not only ice cream was, but factory farming. And so, Patrick, you're in a good lineage. John died a few years ago. But he was
Unfortunately,
an old friend, and his story is worth your knowing about.
So listen, I'm going to make a technical suggestion here for Patrick. You're holding up your phone, and what I'm thinking, Patrick, is that maybe if you call in and we can hear you through your phone. So, or we can read your lips.
yeah, read my lips. No more nuclear plants.
But or else you need to set the readjust the settings on your computer. Oh,
all right,
You're frozen now. Do you want to go out and come back in?
Yeah, Patrick, turn off your computer and then come back, please.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
Not. Screen is.
And meanwhile, let's start with T here. T, you are an activist.
Sorry, we'll work this out, Pat.
Yeah, please. And do you have Patrick's phone number there, Steve?
No.
Okay. T, you are with a group called This Will Hold, and we're going to have you introduced, please, by the great LYNN FEINERMAN, who has her own radio show and much more. We also, John, you're going to have a guest with us as well on election protection. So go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm honored to introduce T. She heads the online investigative group, This Will Hold, maintaining her privacy because the group has gotten a lot of death threats for the work that they're doing. And so she uses only her initial most of the time. And that provides her and the group with some safety and security. She provided her own bio, which is somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Action is the antidote to despair. She has been an investigative journalist, a member of the U.S. military. She is a veteran now, and she is as courageous as they come. I am honored to introduce T and to start the conversation by asking her a question, and that is, T, please tell us what signaled for you that the investigation that you've done needed to be done.
Thank you, Lynn. Well, I sort of stumbled into this on accident on election night, just watching the results come in and knowing based on a campaign that I was working on that the numbers that we were seeing did not represent at all what reality was. And just, I think what more than half of the country figured out that night was that something was really terribly wrong, as we heard stories about Elon Musk knowing the results several hours in advance. And so we just started digging literally the next day to try to get to the bottom of some of the data that we were seeing. And once results were certified, and we were all told supposedly that Democrats in the swing states had voted blue down ballot, but switched to Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, we knew obviously that something was very wrong. And so, if you go to Smart Elections, which we quote their data all the time and refer to them all the time, if you look at the swing states versus the regular states and just the difference between the down ballot numbers, they're definitely within margins in the non-swing states, under that, 2%. And then you look over it at the swing states and it just is wildly off, between 5 and 6%. And so we just started digging, and that's where we discovered the relationships between Elon Musk and a company that has access to over 70% of our election equipment. And we just kept going from there. So, but I wasn't sure if you guys had an agenda, if you had questions for me, or if, what all you wanted to talk about. But we've been exposing it from the get-go, and then we've had several whistleblowers come forward to give us more information. And it's been quite an interesting 18 months, that is for certain.
Well, that's a
will-
fascinating presentation. We really appreciate it. Stay with us. Lynn, I just want to check. Patrick Reynolds, can you hear us now? Can you speak?
Oh, no.
I
He's-
put
You're
phone
still
numbers
muted.
in the chat. There's phone numbers in the chat. I sent it to John Steiner.
Okay,
John-
Patrick, look in the chat. There are phone numbers for you to call. Call Steve Caruso and he'll work it through.
Meanwhile, I have a question.
Yes, now
for
please go ahead.
5 for T. What I would
Go ahead, Lynn Feinerman. Thank you for bringing us tea. We really appreciate it. And T, thank you for that presentation. Very, very important stuff. Lynn Feinerman, go ahead.
Yeah, just to dig in a little bit more to what you found. It was amazing for us at Women Rising Radio to find that there were long presentations on election night in 2024 examining the so-called results of the Burke County, Florida election numbers, and that there were it was subsequently found out that there isn't any such thing as Burke County, Florida.
Right.
And this was on TV. This was all over Southern TV. So if you could explain that whole cycle to us, T.
Right. So part of why we really started digging was because on election night, we watched in Michigan and Wisconsin over 1.7 million votes disappear for Harris in real time. And so we called, the secretaries of state and really anybody that we could, just to see if anybody had any type of explanation for why, close to 2 million votes disappeared, and no one could answer the questions. And so we kept digging, and we found a podcast called Breaking Points, and they, throughout their broadcast, showcased 5 counties that did not exist, one of them being Burke County in Florida, that had over 6 million votes in it. And the podcasters went on to talk about Burke County and who lived there and why they voted for Trump, and gave a whole, synopsis on why this Burke County was so crucial. And Burke County doesn't exist. And so we just really kept digging, because we found across the swing states in Florida 5 of these counties that are fake, that all had, an unbelievable number of votes in them. And so from there, we started digging into the actual certified election data, because Burke County didn't show up as a certified county in the count, but we could see it, in real time, and we could see millions of votes disappearing. And so then we just started going to the certified data and adding numbers and trying to figure out where that total was coming from. And in science, you don't like to start with an answer and work backwards. You typically want to develop a theory and prove it, but we really didn't have a choice. We knew that it existed, and so we worked backwards to figure out how it existed. And so in Florida specifically, and each state was different, they were starting, and this was to overcome the 2020 mail-in ballot that President Biden, we call 2020 proof of concept, when Republicans are forced to allow everyone to vote and remove the restrictions on mail-in voting. You can see that Democrats show up in force and beat Donald Trump by close to 8 million votes. And so, of course, they scrambled immediately to put those restrictions back on mail-in voting. But we were able to see where they used a fixed variable in these states that we determined they used these fake counties. And so in Florida, they took a combination of the Republican and Democrat mail-in ballots, which was 2,304,417, and the early voting ballots, which they knew ahead of time, which was a little over 4 million, for a total of 6,371,645 votes. That is exactly what is in the fake county vote bank that you see on the screen that shows up in that. So we were able to prove mathematically that they used that number. And so the reason why millions of votes disappear for Kamala Harris, and we were able to track it in Florida as well, is because it was a data swap. So they, post tabulation, took that vote bank that they created and just took it and pulled out the votes for Harris, and then took the data set that they created and placed it in. And that is what we see as the winning totals for Florida, is a preset data set that they created. And we proved that they did that in Georgia and Michigan as well. They used different variables that were fixed ahead of the election to do it, but we're able so far to prove, and now we're working on Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania, Dr. Walter Mebane Jr. from Michigan has already weighed in and found over 225,000 votes that were questionable, of which he said over 100,000 were definitely malevolent manipulations of the vote. And so we've presented all of this. The Election Truth Alliance has as well. They tried to they did file a suit to try to get Pennsylvania to allow a hand count audit. The case was tossed. They're working on an appeal right now. But as you all know, as long as you've been paying attention to elections, it's by design, right? They make it hard to get access to the ballots on purpose so that it takes years and court cases and delays and appeals. And in September, those ballots don't have to be stored anymore. So bottom line, we've been able to establish 5 fake county vote banks. And that's why Elon Musk in July started his America PAC. If you remember, that PAC didn't register any voters. It just collected their data. It was a voter information harvesting PAC. And so the reason that Donald Trump is now doing the same and trying to get states to turn over their rolls is because he's trying to replicate Elon Musk's vote bank from 2024, because Americans don't trust Elon Musk anymore. We're not all going to run out, not that I did, and probably most of you all didn't either, but for the ones that did in the swing states, the chance at winning $1 million, they all raced to sign up in that vote bank in the America PAC, and they turned over all their voter information. Well, he was able to create a vote bank because of that. So now,
well, this is truly fantastic stuff, T, and we are really indebted to you for this work. And I gotta say, for me, it's deja vu all over again. We had this in Florida 2000 with Greg Palast and the manipulation of the voter rolls and the stripping of the voter rolls by 90,000, just enough to get George W. Bush, the state of Florida, which was then shown to be felonious, false. In Ohio 2004, it was all over. The data was all over the place. And again in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania in 2016, we had it all over the place. And here's the key question. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
What has the Democratic Party done about any of this? And how rudely have they told you to take a hike when you've shown them that they in fact won the 2024 election?
I wish they would even respond. They just act like we're conspiracy theorists. And we bring up 2000 and 2004. And 2016 as well. And we show them the proof. The Epstein files actually proved that Epstein and Peter Thiel colluded with Russia to rig the election for Donald Trump. And that's in there. We wrote an article on that as well. And they just really act like it's a non-issue and we can just vote harder this time and make it too big to rig. And we're trying to tell them too big to rig doesn't exist anymore because they figured out this vote bank. Now they know in advance what the mail-in numbers are going to be, and they just create the vote bank and swap the data out. So we're in a different position than we were in 2020 because they figured out how to overcome it, and they won't listen. And we ask the hard questions. It disturbs me to no end that Mark Elias, is the lawyer who told John Kerry to stand down. And then in 2016, Hillary had experts telling her that they had evidence of manipulation in Michigan and Wisconsin and that she needed to challenge. And he told her to stand down as well. And then Kamala Harris, Mark Elias also told Kamala Harris she didn't have, there was no reason to push forward with recounts. So there's a through line there, and it's the same person. And it's really frustrating that no one's asking those questions. So,
Right.
I
I'm
want to
gonna-
ask
I'm
you,
gonna
I want to
replicate-
ask, Harvey.
Well,
I wanna
one
ask-
second, Lynn. I'll call you right in a minute. 1 second. I'm going to right now replicate exactly what Kamala Harris said after running for president about all this stuff and the manipulation of the vote count. You ready? There. I just said what she said. Absolutely nothing. LYNN FEINERMAN, please.
Yeah, I'd like you to go back and tell us about the episode with Kerry, wherein there was a witness who died strangely, who was going to testify.
yes. So
Yeah,
in the 2004, there was a similar to what we're talking about now with these fake counties. There was a mirror site created in Tennessee of the Ohio voting database, and Cliff Arnebeck, I don't know if that name sounds familiar
Yeah,
to you,
Cliff
but
Arnebeck was a
yes.
lawyer who worked with us in Columbus.
Yes, so he was able to prove that that mirror site was activated on election night, and he pulled in Michael Collins, the GOP's computer guru who created it,
Connors.
and he was supposed to testify against Karl Rove, and his plane crashed before he was able to make that court date. And so
No, he actually, they did have his
statement.
They did have a statement, and he died after the fact.
Right, but they were gonna pull him in to actually.
Yes, they were going to get
And
more
the
from
court.
him.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
John Steiner has his hand up. John, meet T here. And T, we want to thank you for talking to us. We know you're taking a risk, and we really appreciate it.
it's
Thank you.
scary. Luckily, I'm 6 feet tall, and I was trained by the military, and it is what it is. But I do have to take precautions and
Right.
be very careful.
Well, we appreciate it. And John Steiner, who's also 6 feet tall, wants to talk to you here. John?
Oh, 6'6", Harvey. Come on.
Okay.
First of all, Lynn, thank you for bringing this wonderful woman on. I've been reading your stuff for a long time. I guess I still have a little optimism that I can get to some folks in the party. So what I'm hoping is, would you either put in chat or put together an email you could send to us that really lays out the best talking points, if we can get anybody to take this seriously, not only about what you found in these last two elections, but what we're up against, both in 26 and 28, and what you're recommending we do about it. And I hope you can stay on, because we're going to have Julia Fielder come on with the Election Safeguard Response Network. And hopefully the two of you know each other, and if not, hoping you guys can meet offline, if not today.
Is Julia on with us yet?
She said she'd come on for the second half hour.
Good. Okay, so Lynn
and
Feinerman?
just for everybody's information, Trump just requested that the Supreme Court extremely and severely limit mail-in voting. He's just put in a request to the Supreme Court today?
Well, so far they've turned him down, but we know that the war on mail-in voting actually, first and foremost, is a war on women voting. Because if you're in a situation where you have to provide photo ID to get a ballot, then the discrepancy between the birth name and the name on the ballot is, 50%. And the group, the ethnic group, or whatever kind of group you want to call it, in American society that is most hostile to Trump is women, for
Right.
good reason, obviously. So, but I got to say, T, the kind of thing you're saying, we have been hearing for 26 years,
Right.
dating right back to Greg Palast's work at in Florida 2000, and to which the most hostile response, from whom the most hostile response came from Al Gore,
Right.
who
Right.
refused to allow the Black Caucus to live up to give a legitimate constitutional challenge to the electoral delegation from Florida. And then Bob Fitrakis and I stuff, 100 different ways, literally 100 different ways that they stole the election in Ohio 2004. Once again, well, Kamala Harris only failed to turn up for a statement on the night of the election. She did on the following morning. John Kerry's response to having had the 2004 election stolen was to go windsurfing.
Mhm.
In Florida, 26, I mean, in Michigan 2016, Hillary Clinton's lawyers oh, hi, Patrick. Can you speak? No, still
No,
can't hear you, bro.
there's a
And,
number. I'll put the number in the chat. I don't know if you know how to access the chat, but John Steiner and you have the number to call for the
okay.
Zoom. So if you want to call that, it's quite long. So good luck.
Okay. So
Well,
anyway, do what you can. But T, then in
I
2016,
can't call you. You have to.
a judge in Michigan told the Hillary Clinton's people that because of Jill Stein's challenge, there was sufficient evidence to demand a recount in Michigan 2016, but that because Jill couldn't win, he needed a candidate to level a challenge that could win. That would have been Hillary Clinton, but they turned him down. Now, was that Mark Elias who turned him down?
Yes, and if you look at what happened in 2016, again with the election equipment malfunctioning in 59% of election equipment in Black and brown neighborhoods. And so the number between Trump and Hillary was 77,000. That's what separated with the Electoral College. Well, she left 75,000 votes on the table in Michigan alone. And so the refusal to, whether it, what do we want to call it? Whether they're saying it's to guard the institution and, you don't want people feeling disenfranchised that our elections are able to be tampered with. Well, the report that just came out on July 13th, the CISA report, basically outlines everything that we've been talking about for the last 18 months, how vulnerable our systems are. They were able to hack the systems, some of them within hours, and completely take over systems. And then they're also talking about all the other, like we're talking about the reporting system and post-tabulation networks that are connected, that there's no monitoring on those. Like no one's paying attention to some of these, tunnels and connections. And so it is all just so vulnerable. So it's not just the one, what happened in 2016 isn't necessarily what happened in 2020, because we can still see manipulation in 2020, but the mail-in ballots were enough to overcome it. And it was for Trump. And then in 2024, it's all different, but it's all being attacked. And so how do we get out of it? We go back to paper and we have an open source method of counting. I would prefer we do hand counting, but since our population has exploded since Reagan was in office, I think hand counting is a little out of the question, but we need an open source method of counting. And that's really, governors right now, to protect the vote, they could be saying we're going to declare states of emergency and use our backup voting method, which is manual, and remove the electronic component altogether for the midterms and call it a day until we can get to the other side. But what people seem to misunderstand or just not know is that regardless, even if we sweep and we get in there and we win, we're not going to get enough votes in the Senate enough people in the Senate to get him out of office. We absolutely need criminal cases. We need investigations. We need state attorneys general to do the digging and get to the bottom of who did what and start throwing some folks in jail. That's how we get this illegitimate administration out. Unless we have that, we're just looking at another couple of years of this. And so, and I say a couple years, now he's talking about running again because he knows the second he leaves office, he's going to, they're going to be after him. So why would he? I mean, he's already laying the groundwork to steal the midterms. So it's a lot.
T,
LYNN FEINERMAN, go ahead.
yeah,
Lynn.
T, can you explain how he's laying the groundwork? And is he, again, working with Elon Musk via the satellites? Explain how Musk put up those satellites weeks before the
Right.
2024
It does
election.
look like, it does look like they're back in, in togetherness, after the midterms. No, I'm sorry, not midterms. After the blue sweep that we had last November, Elon Musk put a tweet out and said, it's time to pull a lot of rabbits out of the hat. And it does appear, for all intents and purposes, that they're back communicating and that he's back at it. So that said, we also know, again, they raided Fulton County and they're doing everything they can to get their hands on. So Senator Ossoff's seat is one to watch because we know that they're going to try to rig it, and we watch it in real time. We reached out to some of the legislators that lost their races, that we could see the votes being removed from the system as it was happening, and let them know what happened and provided them with everything, and they chose not to do anything about it. And so that's really where we're at, is that we need people running for office that when experts come to you and say, hey, we can see that your race was stolen, they're going to, raise the flag and say, let's get a recount. Let's do something about this. And so far, we've not been able to get, a candidate that would be willing to do that.
Well,
and it's
listen,
happening in California. The sheriff, Chad Bianco, who ran for
Yes.
governor, went in and seized Riverside County's votes, all the ballots, all the vote data.
Mhm.
That particular county is all touchscreen. Okay, California doesn't have a lot of touchscreen, but that particular one is, and
Mhm.
that means that he can totally manipulate that, at least in his own county, and that he can also offer, for whatever is whatever money he can find and whatever power he can find to get that vote bank, that fake vote bank ready
Yep.
in California.
And that was
then,
over 600,000 ballots. He seized over
Yeah.
600,000 ballots.
Yeah, and
Well-
and then they'll start, like 3 weeks. Oh, suddenly Hilton is really close. We didn't think it would be this close. California must be shifting in its political views.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
is the game that gets played.
right. And
And
the bigger game, in terms of the balloting, is when and Patrick Reynolds, by the way, we're not being able to get to you. We do have Ray McClendon on here and also John Steiner. I will arrange a joint call for us afterwards. I know this is distracting, so we will get to you personally after the call if we can't get you on the phone. But thank you for coming. You're still a great American hero as far as I'm concerned. So T, and also John Steiner, we're joined by Julia, is that right?
If she's on, do you guys see her?
I did see her. Also, Ray McClendon is with us and Ray Lutz. Ray McClendon, Patrick, is a great grassroots organizer. We want you to meet with him personally. And Ray Lutz is,
Is
of
this
course, one of.
Patrick? All right, Harvey,
Okay. Oh,
I
well,
might be,
let's continue with this, and then we'll get Patrick in a minute. Let me just
okay.
finish this, okay, for a minute, because this is hugely important. And then Patrick, we'll see if we can get you patched in, and if not, as I say, we'll talk to you afterwards. And I see Julia Fiedler is with us as well. The
Hey,
bottom line here is in 2000, we had paper ballots in South Florida that were completely manipulated. So there was a giant move to go to electronic machines, the HAVA Act, Help America Vote Act. And so over the next few years, especially in Ohio, millions of voting machines were put in, which were completely manipulable. And that's how they stole the 2004 election, especially in Ohio, where the chairman of the committee to reelect Bush was also the owner of the voting machines.
Walden Dell. Isn't that
Small,
Not,
Walden
not
Dell?
surprising.
small So over the decades afterwards, we ran, we had a national campaign to go to hand-marked paper ballots. And then when the COVID came, everything went to vote by mail. And more than 80% of the ballots in 2020 were cast by mail.
Mhm.
And then to that, John Brakey added the scanning ability, ballot scanning ability to back up the hand count, which is, of course, an enormous job to do hand counting, and not all that accurate, by the way. Hand counting is really flawed. But if you combine it with digital scanning, as John Brakey showed us how to do, and others like Ray Lutz, then we were able to get a fair with vote by mail in 2020. We had a reasonable vote cast and vote count in 2020, which is why they stormed the Capitol in 2021.
Right,
Now Donald Trump is trying to dismantle vote by mail because the secret of vote by mail is that it's also hand marked paper ballots.
right,
And so, they can mess with the post office. No, obviously, no doubt about that, but it's fungible. And then if you have digital scanning behind it, you might get an actual vote count. And as you point out, they're doing everything they can to avoid that. And Elon Musk in 2024, absolutely no doubt about it, and I'm sure Julia and everybody else on the call knows, that there was a very suspicious uniform margin of victory in the 7 swing states,
right,
just enough in the 7 swing states to avoid recounts.
right.
And that was all done by Elon Musk. And now they're doing it again. And I know you're talking to us from Fiji, so we want you to be safe. Um, but so that's the big picture. So now Steve, you want to jump in? Then we had Julia Fiedler, and we'll see if we can get Patrick.
hold on, Patrick.
Yeah, and they're extra votes and vote banking. That's the big thing with Burke County and the fact that the voter rolls are the gatekeeper to who can vote. And if you're not on the rolls, the heck with you. But there's so many fake voters that have been created by this cabal put into the registration, and they can just say, oh yeah, so and so voted, here it is in the registration. Well, nobody's checked to see if they're legit people like Mr. ATM and all that stuff that we've had Allison Green on here like 3 or 4 shows in a row talking about that thing endlessly and how they're using that vote banking to replace the real votes. And then when things come around, they just say, oh yeah, here we got the votes. And that's what T was alluding
Right.
to earlier as well.
So-
thanks. Bye.
If you
Harvey,
have
should I go ahead?
if you have $1 trillion in your checking account, you can certainly buy an election, right, Steve?
Yeah, several of them. What?
And-
What did Elon say about Bolivia? He says
Come on, you guys.
we're going to have a coup, and that's you just have to
Okay.
accept that. We'll coup anybody
Right.
we want. Just deal with it. And that's
Well,
what he
let's go
said.
to John Steiner now. John, and you've got Julia Fiedler with us, and you've also got Patrick on the other line. So give us a hit here.
Julia, thank you so much for coming on. Before I introduce you, I want to make sure that you have a chance to talk to the woman whose name on this show is This Will Hold, if you guys don't already know each other. So maybe you guys can do that in private chat. So I am thrilled to have Julia Fiedler with us. She is with the Election Safeguards Response Network. And I'm just going to read this and then we'll let her go on with us, which is an amazing nonpartisan convening and collaboration space, a remarkable coalition of national, state, and local-based partners at the forefront of identifying, planning for, and responding to. Hold on, I'm trying to deal with my phone, there we go.
Well, while you're doing that, Pat, I want
No,
to inform.
here we are.
John, 1 second. I want to inform Patrick Reynolds and Ray McClendon that you will be talking to the two of them if we don't connect on this call a couple hours down the road, and we'll make that meeting happen. Okay,
Thanks,
go
Harvey.
ahead, please.
And Julia is the Election Safeguard Response Network, also known as ESRN Operational Project Manager, with a long history of working in politics and with candidates up and down the ballot during 4 election cycles. Julia, welcome. And why don't you just start by, if you want to say a smidgen more about yourself and then an overview of what ESRN is and why it's so important this time around.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. The Election Safeguards Response Network, like John said, is a nonpartisan coalition of national and state-based partners working to thwart those who are advancing authoritarianism in our country. It has cropped up into a really phenomenally large effort just this year. I think we all know, everybody on this call is aligned that we're facing levels of authoritarianism in this country that we have not seen thus far. And ESRN is really building the muscle to respond to things when they happen at the speed of events, as we say. So we're really working on rapid response communications, legal response, a whole variety of issue areas and subject matter experts who are working together across their subject matter expertise areas to respond when things happen. Folks like yourselves who are involved in pro-democracy efforts and pro-voting rights efforts play such an important part here in terms of helping to get out the sort of messages that we're sharing. Just this year, the number of people who we have been contacting via our message guidance and rapid response issue briefs has almost quadrupled from the hundreds to the thousands. And what we know is that the power of those people is actually in their networks. So that is to say that when we use our subject matter experts across a variety of subject matter fields, put together guidance or how we're responding to things when they happen. One of the key ways we leverage that is by getting the message out in groups like this. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm putting some links in the chat that will help you to get connected with the ESRN. You can fill out our new partner form where you can get access to our mailing list, resources, signing up for our partner briefings. Every month we have a call, and we're about to move to twice monthly with important movement leaders. So you can sign up using that form to get access to those. The one thing I would say is in that form, make sure to include the information about how you're connected to the pro-democracy space. Obviously, in today's environment, with a lot of organizations being investigated and all of that, it's very important that we know who is attending those calls. So be sure to include as much information as you can on that form. And then you can also register for the partner briefing. Make sure you use the same email address on those two things. I am happy to answer any questions, but really just want to point you towards the resources here. And the best way to find out more is by coming to that partner briefing. So,
well, we're gonna hear from you as much as possible. We got 60 people with us. LYNN FEINERMAN, who brought T with us, and T, we're all 3 of you are together here. So LYNN, jump in, please.
Yes, thank you, Julia for joining us. Do you like Julie or Julia?
Julia is good.
Julia's good. Okay. My question, I prepared my questions for T, but you'll probably be jumping in on this as well. I'm also curious to know what your group is doing about this, and that is what what do you think, T, they're going to do about mail-in voting? I mean, what do you think the scenario, the plot is going to be as we near the midterm, seeing as the rump has already shown that he's going to go to the Supreme Court to limit mail-in voting?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious the Supreme Court is in his pocket, and we're less than 100 days out. They're not in session right now, so are they going to take it on the emergency docket? I can't speak to that, but the post office has already said that they're sort of in his back pocket as well, and they're limiting who they're even going to mail ballots to if the states don't comply with his demands. And so I'm sure that's setting, up multiple lawsuits across the board. So it's really just an all-out assault against mail-in because he knows that's how he got beat in 2020. And who knows if the method that they tried in 2024 is going to work, because they are expecting such a large turnout. So we just have so many questions. We don't understand why the Democrats won't come to the table and have the conversation. That said, there's a through line, from like you said, Kerry and some of these pro-business Democrats that, especially since Citizens United, they're all getting wealthy, and we can just never seem to get enough people elected to do the right thing for the American people, despite how popular our policies are. And it really seems like it's a feature, not a bug, if that makes sense.
That's very, very well stated. I think
mean,
it's both a feature and a bug, actually,
Yeah.
but it's a pretty evil bug. And you put it beautifully. And the through line from Gore to Kerry, Obama, won his elections, but then Clinton and Harris, they all let us down.
Yeah.
They were all no-shows, and led by the great Mark Elias here, who never shows up
Yeah.
when it really counts. John Steiner, go ahead, please.
Can we ask for Julia to respond to
Yeah,
T
please,
and to
Julia,
my
go ahead.
question before John? Thank you, John.
Sure. I think T, you've raised many great points. I will add a reason to be a little bit optimistic. I think it's really hard at times, but something that we have noted in our legal domain of lawyers who are litigating these cases in court is that they've been doing a whole lot of winning. A lot of these cases that have been brought to the court, they're obviously horrible and all of that, but like they are continuing to raise these things because they're desperate. And like that is the sort of message frame that we go with, is this is a desperate, foolish attempt that's not going to work because all these other attempts have also failed. I'm not sure what number we're up to just yet, but I do believe that in terms of the vote by mail executive order cases that were raised, I could be slightly misstating exactly what those cases were, but we've won, by we I mean like the pro-democracy space, have won almost every single one of those cases in court, and the ones that we haven't yet haven't been dropped. So or have not been have not gone through the system just yet. So I'll just temper the doom and gloom, which is very valid and very understandable, with when these things are making it to court, but they are not necessarily being successful in court.
Right, but the law only reaches so far, and the
Yeah.
court, we're 99 days out,
Right.
99 days, and we all know that if this election goes the wrong way, we are living in a fascist country, straight up, and the post office, who knows what the post office is going to do, having torn up all the drop boxes. I used to live in Franklin County, Ohio. Over 1 million people in Franklin County, one drop box, and nobody knew where it was. So the post office is another, let's say, another issue. We do have two good unions in the post office, the National Association of Letter Carriers and the American Postal Workers Union. Both very progressive, and they will be on the case. And Julia and T and everybody else, we need to be aware and to work with those unions.
We should
They
have
could
been
decide the whole thing.
aware. It's, 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Right, exactly.
We really should have had the unions working with us right after the 2024 election, and we should be like way
Well, here we are
further down
now.
the line. So,
Wait, John Steiner.
No,
John Steiner had a hand
Julia
up.
wanted to respond here.
I will just note that one of the subject matter areas that ESRN is currently building is called our stakeholders domain. And in the stakeholders domain, these are folks who are working to bring together the pillars of civil society, as we call them. So that's veterans, labor, as you stated, a whole bunch of other things, business, religion, the sort of things that hold up society outside of the pro-democracy space. And they're working on bringing that in. And I happen to know off the top of my head that the Postal Handlers Union is involved in that in some way or another. So we are building these relationships at ESRN. That's part of the function of the group. So
Yeah,
just wanted to name that.
So
good for
Julia,
you.
before
It's
you,
the APWU and the NALC. John Steiner.
Julia, before you came on, T and others, including Harvey and Lynn, we're talking about election rigging. What happens to the votes after they're counted?
Mhm.
And wondering if that is a subject matter area that ESRN is involved
Sure,
with.
I can definitely speak to that. Just a little bit more information about how ESRN works. Is we've identified somewhere between 10 and 17 threats that are things that all 7 of our subject matter verticals are preparing for. And that includes threats to certification. We have working groups that are working on how to respond in the event that there are things like ballot seizures or machine seizures or a refusal to certify elections at the county level. Those are things that folks across law, communications, mass mobilization, when I say vertical, I mean those things, like groups of people who are working on law or a group of people who are working on communications, a group of people. Those are our verticals. So what we're doing is we're kind of working on these response plans for how to respond in the event of those things. And a huge part of that, there's no not denying it, is litigation. So lots of lawyers are working tirelessly to sort of get ahead of these things. We often talk about how these are the most transparent authoritarians in history. They keep telling us exactly what they're going to do. So it makes it a little easier to prepare. Something that I think that we view as important for our work, just personally, is sort of being like ducks on the water and like maintaining the smooth presence, but having the feet paddling underwater. So there's a lot of stuff happening around those things.
Well, we have two great experts to rope in on this. One is Ray Lutz. Ray, you're somewhere in there, and we have 60 people with us. And the other, John Brakey. I don't know if you're John Brakey. No, I'm John Brakey. You guys should know him. He's in Arizona. Ray's in Southern California. Ray is the great guru of audits, election audits. As we like to say, the word audit does appear in the Bible. And so these are experts in this field that you need to hook up with. And we also have Ray McClendon with us in Atlanta, who is truly one of the great gurus of grassroots relational organizing. And he was right there, by the way, in Atlanta when they raided the election board, and is totally familiar with what's going on there. So we need to expand the circle. These people are really powerfully important to have you be in touch with.
I
Let's
have
go.
a question I have
Okay.
a question in response to Julia.
Okay, and then we'll go to Doug CRAGOE and Dorothy Reik.
Okay, thank you. Julia, really glad to have you here. Is it possible that a collection of attorneys can put a restraining order on the election systems that are being used based on the fact that they are a monopoly and stop the use of them altogether? Because nobody but extreme right-wingers owns and operates all that election machinery. And we still have a considerable amount of touchscreen voting going on. Is it possible that that could happen prior to the midterms?
Oh, I would say I'm not an attorney, and I don't feel confident in saying what is or is not possible. I think that it makes sense to think about how all things are possible. One thing I will just say is that our attorneys who work on these things, folks who are working for or like many different sort of legal organizations that you've heard of, have thought of those things. These are folks who are extremely experienced in court or surrounding election law. While I can't necessarily say, I've actually not heard that personally as a possibility. I say that I feel confident in the legal I'm going to say vertical, but like, I mean, even outside of ESRN, like there's a lot of people out there working on this stuff, preparing for every eventuality, who are pre-drafting requests in court orders, restraining orders, those sorts of things, if that becomes necessary.
Okay,
Well, we all know what we're looking at.
Please be in touch with T, because you know, I think that the legal angle is going to have to be put into use.
Well, we all know, and I don't, Ray McClendon, I don't see you often. I can't see you. If you can raise your hand, that'd be great. Ray McClendon and Ray Lutz is here. We all, and who I'm going to call on next. We all know that we're looking at a tsunami of cash that's going to be coming at us in the next 100 days. And it's come pouring down into every possible crevice of the electoral process and some that don't exist. And so, as people who believe in democracy, that is what we're going to have to prepare for. I wanted to make sure you meet Ray Lutz here. Ray's in San Diego, and he is a total expert in the world of audit, of election auditing. Ray, do you want to introduce yourself and put yourself in the pool here? And then we'll go to Doug CRAGOE and Dorothy Reik.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, Ray Lutz is my name, and Citizens Oversight, my organization, also Audit Engine. So since about 2019, we realized that we couldn't get to the ballots. I had a lawsuit in San Diego trying to get to them, which they now unfortunately cite as proof that you can never get to any ballots. And so what we wanted to do was get to the images, which now the machines do make, and a lot of times they're published, and then we can review the election, at least from that extent. But let me tell you what I'm really worried about, which transcends everything, and what I think Trump has up his sleeve. I think that he's going to have some kind of an emergency and then come out there with the FBI and confiscate ballots in those regions where and all the election records in those regions where his people are not winning. And then they're going to announce the winners, his picks, and say they won. And we're going to be looking over all of the materials from now on within the FBI, and we're going to be telling you who won. But those are the winners. Now, this is exactly what Maduro did in Venezuela. I think Trump said, I really like that guy. You know, he's a strong man, but I want to be the strongest man in the hemisphere, so I got to get rid of him. But I like what he did, and that's exactly what he did. You know, they'd like to talk about Smartmatic machines as being crappy, and that's why it happened. It had nothing to do with the machines. In fact, those are some of the best machines I've ever seen. On the poll tape, they have a big giant QR code at the bottom, which you can just snap and get the entire results from the machine. And that's what the citizens did in Venezuela. They went out and got all those poll tapes and added them up, and they proved that Maduro didn't win. But I think Trump may be following Maduro's mold here by confiscating the ballots, and then just declaring that he won. Forget any worry about the machines. Forget who owns them. Nothing matters now because you can't check anything once they get all the ballots. Now, how do we defend against that? And here's what we want everybody to join us in trying to get to happen. We need the election officials to make digital backups of all their ballot images and all of their records, 2 different backups in separate safes so that we have it secured that we can reconstruct the election. That'll defeat this. Getting them to actually do it is going to be a challenge. But I don't see any other way. I believe this is happening. Look what he's just done. He fired everybody at the Election Assistance Commission. He wants to get rid of vote by mail. Even if that never happens, everybody's in a fluster. And you know, you don't know what's going to happen. And so I'm just worried about that. So we need to get
Well,
back
you guys got to be, you guys
Thanks a
got to
lot.
be talking to each other.
Ray,
Bring
I
in
can
John
agree
Brakey.
more.
Yeah. I'll put my contact info at Citizens
Well,
Oversight.
we'll convene another meeting in 3 weeks, and Julia T, Lynn, Ray, everybody will get John Brakey. We will have a major confab in 3 weeks in the middle of July, the middle of August. We're still shy of Labor Day, and we will go over this for 2 full hours. So it'll be mid July, whatever the date is. My grandson's getting married on the 9th, so we won't meet on the 10th. So it'll be the 17th, July 17th. We will have a national summit.
August.
August.
I'm sorry, August 17th. We will have a national confab involving everybody for 2 full hours, how we're going to deal with the election. Okay? Please, everybody come. Doug CRAGOE and Dorothy Reik. Doug?
Yes, my question is for this will hold. Are you saying vote manipulation happened at the county level and that the county level results were altered and falsified or manipulated? Individual county level reports?
The way that the vote banks work is post tabulation, so it's not at the county level. It's after. It's a data swap. And so auditing at the county level wouldn't expose what they were able to do.
Okay, well, let me ask another question on that. So if the county level results are deemed to be accurate and true, why can't you just get the county level results and add them all up yourself, you know, to make a grand total for the state? You know what I'm saying?
That's how we caught them, because the county doesn't match the state, doesn't match the national. That's part of why, if you look at the state totals, they don't match the counties. And then like Pennsylvania is a disaster, but I like to refer to it the most. Some of those counties, they've got like 146% of the population in certain counties voted. Obviously, that's not possible. So the numbers are so badly skewed that was really how we were able to dig and get to the bottom of it, but nobody's doing anything about it. And so to Ray's point, we are also concerned about Trump declaring an emergency, and that's why we're trying to get governors to preempt that and declare states of emergency themselves, get ahead of it, default to their manual, backup methods of voting, and remove the ability for Trump to do that, to cheat the way that we think that they're going to.
Right.
The state reported the wrong results, huh?
Well, that not only did they mess with the county counts, they invented counties.
Right.
They just made up counties and threw a few million votes in, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and
at the state level then, right? The state reported, did the manipulation. Somebody at the state level did that?
No, it's in the reporting system. So it's where the numbers are transferred into and then reported. So back in the day when Reagan was in office, you used to call your numbers into the station and they would report them. Well, now it's all electronic and it's connected to election night reporting. And that is where the attack vector occurred in 2024.
And it goes through Starlink, right? Through Elon Musk.
exactly.
Correct.
I don't understand. If you have the county results and the county results are accurate, you can just add them all up together and prove that the state has got the wrong
Hey,
number.
Doug, she
All right.
just answered that. So
Which
you keep
Right.
Yeah,
asking the
and
same
I'd like
question.
to just.
She's
and
going to
I'd
get
like
the
to
same
just-
answer.
Yeah, and I'd like
Okay,
to
all right.
just remind you all that Rump went to Pennsylvania after 2024 and publicly thanked Elon and said he knows the computers. So we did great in Pennsylvania. That is
And,
what Donald said.
and Elon Musk's baby mama also said that
Which
Elon
one?
Musk rigged it. Well,
Ashley, yeah,
what's her name? Ashley?
Ashley St. Clair. She and I
Oh, yeah.
correspond
Clair.
pretty regularly. And I'll be honest with you, there are some states that have now started doing some digging because of her statement and what happened in Minnesota with the foreign interference. You know, they've got to refer to the BCA, which then sends it up to the state attorney general. But the right people are finally asking questions. It's just frustrating that we're less than 100 days out from the election. You know,
And we have no Democratic Party was on the case. You know, they're with AWOL. They're with you in Fiji there.
right.
Dorothy
They're
Reik.
like, yeah. Well, real quick. Donald Trump recently gave a national address, which was largely ignored by a lot of people. But in the address, he alleged that there was all this chicanery against him, but the evidence that he showed foreign interference in favor of him.
For him.
So for him, yes. So, you know, I know that there are people who are skeptical, and Doug, we know that it's, you know, difficult to wrap your mind around all of this. But these women have studied this, and Ray Lutz has studied it as well. Sonny uncovered similar chicanery in Ohio, 2004. This has been going on quite a long time. There's no
Right.
question about it. The question is, how do we get people to do something about it? It's not really appropriate right now to say, well, how do you know? How do you know? And we keep telling you, we do know. And
Yeah,
the
we know.
question is, how do we get people to do something about what we know? And that's the issue. And Dorothy Reik, I think your
Well,
hand has been up
as
for a while.
Donald Rumsfeld would have said, we know what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. So there
Yeah,
you
the
go.
known
By the way,
knowns and the known
I
unknowns.
uncovered it. I uncovered none of it. Bob Petrakis uncovered it, but I wrote it up, and he put it on the internet, and here we are today. So someone else is speaking now. I want to give it to Dorothy here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead,
So,
Dorothy, please.
a little bit of good news. SpaceX is tanking, and Tesla, and Musk is no longer a trillionaire. But that's not
Well,
what
it goes up and down, goes back and forth depending
it's
on
tanking.
this
And
price
I think
of the stock.
when the lockout period starts, it's going to tank more. But what I want to say is that even if we win, I think it was Tom Hartman or someone pointed out that in the Constitution, it doesn't say swear in the winners. It just says swear in the new members, and wouldn't put it beyond Mike Johnson. Just not swear in those people.
Don't give them ideas, Dorothy.
Well, Tom Hartman gave it to them.
Well, we have to talk to Tom about that.
Then we're going to go back and we're going to take the run here. I don't see John Brakey. We have with us two great nuclear people who are with us, and also great. We have Kevin Camps and Carl Grossman. We're going to dive into the nuclear power issue, but this is really, really deep stuff, and it's couldn't be more basic. Ray Lutz really knows this stuff inside and out. We need John Brakey with us as well. John Steiner really on the case as well. John, did you want to say something? We'll go to Mike and Steve again.
Yeah, T, I just again wanted to thank you so much for this. And if we want to follow up with the best research you guys have done, where do we go to find it? Because you've put out any number of great Substacks.
You know, I'll actually just create a separate, because we're working on something else right now that's sort of in that wheelhouse. I'll just put together a list of the, you know, top bullet points and where people need to be looking, and what we think are the biggest threats. I would love it if some of the experts, and this is something that we've noticed over the course of the years, we have so many experts in this space that talk about the data and how things look manipulated, how they can be manipulated, how vulnerable the equipment is, but they stop just short of saying that the elections are stolen, and they say there's no proof. But that's by design. They make it so hard to get access to the ballots and to prove that the elections are stolen that it's sort of self-defeating in a way. And I really don't understand that. I don't understand why some of these experts do that, but we are fully, this data, you just look at it. And if you show people who look at data all the time, some of these heat maps, and then you tell them that this is the election, their eyes they're like, wait, what? How? They understand that the elections have been infiltrated. And back to the Democratic Party, I mean, the Republicans haven't had a legitimately elected president. I mean, let's be honest, since Eisenhower. And so what is the Democratic Party doing besides sticking their head in the sand? And when we talk about apathy and we talk about losing faith in the institution, I can tell you, Black women and women of color are tired of carrying water for a party that continues to hand us a bucket full of holes. It's like, get out, get us out there, we're going to do our work. We're going to pull in the vote, but then we turn around and we don't get policies that keep us alive. And we suffer more under the GOP. Therefore, we're more outwardly spoken about it, about all of this. We don't have the luxury of being embarrassed. This whole we don't want to look like them, phenomenon that's happening because of Trump poisoning the well. Black women and women of color, we don't have the luxury of being embarrassed. We want to know what happened. We want to know how to fix it so we can make a better life for all of us, everybody. And Democrats are just not listening. And so their coffers are empty and they want to know why, and they want Black women to get out there and women of color to do their jobs and carry the water. Well, you're going to have a hard time convincing us to do that when you're not serving us, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely. Okay.
So
We
T,
got
it
that.
sounds like you'll be putting something together for us, sending it to
For sure.
Harvey or Lynn,
Right.
who can share it
Well,
with
we'll
us.
have you
The
back
rest of
next
us.
week, and Patrick Reynolds,
Thank
we're going
you.
to have. Thank you, John Steiner, great, Reynolds, everybody. This is the precursor now. We'll have a national summit August 6th, 17th. Patrick has some ads that we can show next week, Patrick, if we can do that. I don't think we still can't hear you. No, we're gonna figure this out in a week. You'll get your voice back. We appreciate that, Ray. Lots of and your stuff. So we will be prepared on August 17th, and we will really lay it out. But look, we've had 2,000. Well, of course, I actually raised money for the October surprise issue, where they held the Iranian hostages after the 80 election. So that was Reagan's entree into national power. And then, of course, we had the 2000 miasma, which Al Gore has still not spoken about, 2004, which John Kerry has still not spoken about, 2016, which
Hey.
Hillary Clinton has not spoken about, and 2024, which what Catherine Harris said nothing about. If we do this again, we're done. So thank you, everybody, for that. Mike, Steve, did you guys want to jump in? Dorothy, have you said what you wanted? And then we're going to go into the nuclear world. But this has been quite extraordinary. And Patrick, again,
Yeah.
we will get a hold of you offline.
Yeah, but the whole thing when it comes down to when DDHQ is Decision Desk Headquarters, the company that's partially owned by Rubio's ex-IT guy is the group that were reversing the totals of Democrats as the show went on in time when the vote was being counted.
Right.
Okay, this total fabrication of what is called the election that we're counting. We got more votes than we need. You don't have to go out and vote. That whole thing. They had it down. They had it down, and it was cyber security. Really, what it comes down to, a war of cybersecurity where they stole it. And
Exactly.
That's bottom line.
The Ukrainians are winning a war with drones, so maybe we can too. I remember when you talk about Maduro, there's a different name to remember, and that name is Orban. Nobody ever thought that they'd get Orban out of power in Hungary, and he's out. And it's basically the basic issue that got Orban out and that will get Trump out is corruption. People on neither side of the fence, MAGA or progressive, nobody in this country likes corruption. And this guy is stealing the house blind, and everybody knows it. And that's my prediction of what will bring him down. But we got to make sure that the election itself is not corrupted.
Free
Mike
speech
Hurst,
is
did you want to? Oh, Steve, go ahead.
Excuse me, let me just say that Hungary had hand-counted paper ballots.
That's
It
what I was
was
going
the
to say.
tabulation. Thank you, T. I'm sorry I preempted you there, but it wasn't just the corruption. It was the fact that they were able to honestly tabulate the vote.
And this is not a new issue for us. We've been on this since 2000 with Greg, and 2004 with Bob and me, and on all this is 26 years now. So we know the issue inside and out. We won in 2020 because of hand counted paper ballots. We do not want a return of the COVID. So let's please figure out how to do this right. And we have 98 days to do it. So we'll gather again on August 17th, and we'll really work this out. Thank you, Lynn, for bringing T and John and all
And
this stuff.
Sonny,
Yeah.
real quick, I have a legal opinion for Lynn. It is absolutely possible to bring a lawsuit to enjoin bad election processes. And it happens if there's like a situation where there's a technical problem with voting and a judge will order that the polls have to stay open as an emergency order. It can be done preemptively. The judge can make an order that if ICE agents or other agents appear at voting centers, at polling places, that they're in contempt. They can order all kinds of things like that. Now, the Supreme Court ultimately can overthrow or overrule, rather, a lot of these decisions. But according to the Constitution, states determine how their elections are run. And that's why we have 50 different processes in the 50 different states, different one for DC, different one for Puerto Rico, different one for the other territories. That's just the way it is. So a lot of it is up to the states, the state attorneys general, the state Supreme Courts or highest courts in the various states. It can absolutely be done, and it should be done, and we should start that now if it isn't already.
Well, everything's got to start now. Anything that hasn't started now has got to start, when we get off the phone and after we start talking about nukes. But, this has got to happen. There's Bob Petrakis, I'll never forget the obscenities with which Bob Petrakis was described
General
by the
wants to
by the
say
Attorney General of the Secretary of State of Ohio.
and
Okay.
whatever I say could be used against me. They stole the election.
Yeah, they did. So we can't have, if they steal this one, it's the last one. That's what Franklin Roosevelt said when they said, sir, if you succeed, you will be the greatest president in history. And Franklin Roosevelt said, if I fail, I'll be the last president in history. So if we fail to protect this election, it's over. I think we all know that. So we'll be meeting forward. Thank you for going forward with this, everybody. Anybody else want a last word before we go to Kevin Camps and Carl Grossman and what Donald Trump has done to the nuclear power industry? Go ahead, Lynn. Lynn?
Yeah, I just want to, I want to reemphasize, and probably T can do this much better than me, but I want to reemphasize that, Musk he literally put thousands of satellites up into space in order to connect with the counting systems and the counting mechanisms in 2024. They were completed and placed up there weeks before the 2024 election. And so, we're talking about really going after legally or however we can the people who are in charge of this incredible technology.
Right.
That, so T, you want to take over?
Well, and that's again sort of how we ended up here, because if you really look at Elon Musk, and even back when I was in the military, he was talking about pro-Russia actions back in 2001. And those of us that were serving were like, something's not right with this guy, right? And so in 2022, 49 days after Putin invaded, he threw out his bid for Twitter, an unsolicited bid at 20 billion over market, and purchased Twitter. And that was all the way back in 2022. Well, we know that Ukraine sits on 15 trillion in minerals that he needs for his companies. And so to say that this was, something he just decided at the last minute to do, no, this was already in the works all the way back in 2022. Then Wall Street Journal published the article that he'd been in contact with Putin for a couple of years. Then all of the reports of Russia having access to Starlink to use against our ally, Ukraine, that's treason. So there was a lot on the line. He'd obviously turned Twitter into a pro-Trump and pro-Russia dumpster fire. And then he began the launch of these low Earth orbit direct to cell satellites less than a year before the election. And so to put all those satellites up and activate the network, and for, Peter Thiel's, what's the name of his company, that the bet Polymarket, to predict the exact outcome of the election on the day that they activate the satellites, and for how many people to make millions and millions of dollars off that bet. I mean, it's all just tied together. And I realize that it's circumstantial evidence, but it's evidence that state attorneys general could be using to investigate. And then you've got Elon Musk telling Tucker Carlson that he's going to go to the gulag, and, maybe not right now, but in a few years, they're going to be pretty cranky about this one. I mean, he knows it. And he told his girlfriend at the time, Ashley St. Clair, she and I are in communication pretty regularly, the anomaly in the matrix. He was unleashing the anomaly in the matrix. He had his lasers in space, and then showed her that he had access to the real-time Delta vote metrics. And that she told the New York Times, she went to Congress first, and this was right after the election. They told her until the media got on board that they weren't going to go near it. So then she went to the New York Times. The New York Times printed her article in May of last year, which we included in one of our very first articles. And when that still didn't make the rounds, she finally just got on her own TikToks doing her makeup and is telling everybody what he said and what he did. And that's why all of that went viral in May, because she's already run the traps and done everything she could. Democrats still aren't biting. And so she's like, fine, this is what happened. And now it seems like that's even,
Right.
gone by the wayside with all this other extra junk we've got going on. So
And now you have disarray at the Democratic Party. Nothing's coming out of the DNC of any value. I, as a journalist, want to be writing about what they're going to do and how we're going to stop it. I do not want to be writing about how they did it and aren't we screwed. That's the bottom line here. I went to the University of Michigan where we played football to win. Okay, and so this is not a situation we want to be good looters and give it a good college try. We need to win this.
this is like the
Tatanka,
biggest
and then we're
Ohio
gonna.
State game ever.
Well, I grew up in Columbus and I went to the U of M, so you can understand how I'm
Yes.
schizophrenic. But except that I always hated Ohio State. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, Tatanka, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just personally want to thank you, T and Lynn and John, and of course, Sonny, everybody that's kept the faith with this. And I just want to say that I'm just thinking about a couple of big sports figures and media actress, music figures. If we can throw that into the mix and make this bigger than the World Cup, I mean, world globally, that this is happening in real time. We have to do the work here in our country, but we're part of a global and spiritually, we're part of a network that includes all the worlds. So this
Well,
is a
and thank God.
righteous cause, and I want to thank you for your courage, T. Thank you for showing up.
And what we have going for us, thank God, is that the country hates this guy. All the poll, everybody hates this guy except for the 20 billionaires that are pulling the show and that are going to unleash this tsunami of cash at us in the next 90 days. So that's what, but the rest of you look at the polls from Mexico, Canada, Europe, I mean, and the United States. I mean, no president has had lower polls than Donald Trump. Thank God. Thank God this guy is not popular. But now we have our work cut out for us. We have 99 days to do it. We know what to do. So let's do it. Thank you, Tatanka. Everybody, T, you're great. Lynn, let's rock and roll here and let's get it done. We'll meet again next week, and we'll keep meeting on this
Let me
as we
just
go forward.
let me add something here, Harvey.
John Steiner, yeah.
Tatanka, thank you. And I think what I hear you saying is, can we find some key influencers
Yes.
in whatever arena to be briefed by T and
Yes.
2 or 3 others that T, you and others think are the right people to lay this out to people who might have the courage to speak out.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, obviously we can start with Bruce and
I
work
was just gonna say that. Let's go to the boss.
Okay, we'll go to the boss, the real boss. Okay, you guys, this has been phenomenal. We still have, well, we got 56 people with us. We have the longest attention span of any group in the world. And we're going to continue with this. We do need to get into the nuclear stuff because it's beyond belief. I mean, it's just absolutely terrifying. Donald Trump has personally taken over all nuclear, all regulation on the health and safety issues of nuclear power. There's probably no more terrifying a sentence that I could say, except, God forbid, after the election that he keeps power or enhances his power. But we do have an obligation to go through this. So next week we're going to continue. John, I need you to connect with Patrick Reynolds and Ray McClendon. We'll work on that off camera, and we'll get that done as well. Okay. Okay, listen, everybody. This is Carl Grossman and Kevin Camps. These are my partners in Nuclear Sanity. We do have one hand before we go, okay, guys? Just to be courteous, and then we'll go to Kevin in Michigan, Carl on Long Island, and me in California. But go ahead, Heidi. Heidi Vertauer, did you want to say something? Are you still with us, Heidi? Okay. Anyway, so this week, actually today, it has been announced that Donald Trump is now in total control of all regulation on nuclear power in terms of safety and health. Did I overstate that, Carl or Kevin? Is that an accurate statement? Donald Trump
I mean,
is now personally in charge of all nuclear power plants in terms of health and safety. Is that an accurate statement?
well, more than any other president before in history since nuclear power was invented. I mean, he's in March of 2025, he put out a series of executive orders that would significantly gut environmental and safety regulations. Uh, One example is for both public and worker exposure to radiation, a 5-fold increase in the level doses are being considered. And the problem is that, like you've brought up, Harvey, in the past, Donald Trump, even before the Supreme Court ruled, fired an NRC commissioner, Christopher Hansen, who happened to be President Biden's NRC chairman. And that's probably why he fired him, for no other reason. No reason was given. Hansen is very pro-nuclear, but apparently not pro-nuclear enough. So essentially, Trump has made a major power grab at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I shared a couple articles from the past couple days in the New York Times. One is an examination of the various ways that Trump, his family, his friends could profit from nuclear power expanding, which is clearly and explicitly an administration goal and top priority. And the other article is one that just came out today, I think, how troubled the Palisades reactor restart by Holtec in Michigan has been, still is.
Well, I was just on a call, and Mike HERSH was co-convener of this call yesterday with El Sayed, the young guy who's running for Senate in Michigan. And the question we now face, the two key levers on the nuclear power industry in the United States right now are the Palisades reactor, which they're trying to start a restart in Michigan, and the two reactors at Diablo Canyon, which they're continuing to run in the face of the imminent crack up of the San Andreas fault. And God help us if they proceed with either one. But what's happened now that we need to deal with. Oh, also, the Times has actually been jumping on these stories. The Times also ran a story pointing out that Trump has canceled $7.6 billion in solar grants to 15 states. And all 15 states are states that voted for Biden or Harris. In other words, he's been canceling renewable resources, but only in states that voted for the Democrats, which is really, I mean, talk about lack of transparency. This guy just really doesn't care, right? So that too. And I have to say, one of the things I do at night, I'm up very late, is I watch YouTube. I watch documentaries on YouTube. They're 10, 15, 20-minute shorts. And the last couple of nights, I have watched some featurettes, I guess you'd call them, on batteries. And probably, Benjamin Franklin invented the term for battery when he was discovering all this stuff about electricity. And we are now in the middle of the most profound technological transition in history, human history, in terms of battery storage. And the whole industry is right in the process of switching from lithium, which is a rare, expensive, well, not totally rare, it's an uncommon, expensive earth, to sodium, which is everywhere, which is going to completely change the equation, not only on renewable electricity, but also on electric cars, to the point that within 3 years, electric cars will be half or less the current cost that they are now, and half or less the cost of internal combustion engines, which means essentially we're in the middle of a total technological revolution. And these guys are hanging on to nuclear power and with our fingernails, and with Donald Trump now extinguishing meaningful safety and health regulation on an issue where he has direct financial interests. Carl Grossman, as one of the grandfathers of the Kevin Camps counts as a parent, but he's younger than we are. But you are a grandfather of the No Nukes movement. How significant is it that Donald Trump now controls health and safety regulation in the atomic industry?
Well, that's extremely important, of course, that he's usurped the nuclear regulation field. But I think probably even more equally important is, and I'm looking at the New York Times story today, Trump is pushing nuclear energy. This is the headline. His family and supporters could benefit. And certainly in the United States, if not in many countries. What about a deep throat? Tell Woodward, at least according to All My President's Men, the film, follow the money. And I'm amazed that the Times at long last has gotten hold of the story, which you and I, Harvey, have particularly in the last 8 months written about. Let me just, for anybody who hasn't read the piece yet, and it's online, you can go to see it online. Very long piece by two investigative reporters at the Times. And investigative reporters are different than regular reporters, not to knock regular reporters, but investigative reporters try to tell everybody what's really happening. It's a good definition of what investigative reporting is about. And here I'm looking, the third paragraph of the Times story talks about in Trump's second term, he is facilitating how nuclear power can help enrich the president, his advisors, and others in his orbit. It goes on about how the Trump family, president's allies, could gain from the president's nuclear plans. They jump right into this deal that Trump is making with Saudi Arabia and how
Oh my
Westinghouse is in the middle of that deal. The piece names names and just elaborates on and documents how, well, if you follow the money, the Trump family and Trump associates and Trump appointees are moving to push this deadly technology to make not just a buck, to make billions for themselves.
It is quite astounding that they are openly selling nuclear technology to the Saudis. I mean, that is just really something else. Kevin Camps, did you want to comment on that?
Well, actually, Trump made a move to do that in his first term, and Elijah Cummings, who was government reform chairman on the committee in the House, put a stop to it. Two major reports were issued. So, in that circumstance, with a Democratic majority at the time in the US House, a Democrat stepped up. I'm sure the full committee Democrat stepped up and shined a very bright spotlight. The question is, now that Trump's trying again, even harder this time, who's going to step up? I know Ed Markey from Massachusetts is still at the table on these issues, but I really hope that the Democratic Party takes the nuclear weapons proliferation aspects of the dangers seriously, in addition to the money. I mean, how ironic is it that the United States is at war against Iran for enriching uranium while trying to facilitate it happening in Saudi Arabia, where the de facto ruler, the crown prince, has openly stated that he is seeking nuclear weapons, or will if the Iranians do. And apparently they think the Iranians are. So I guess Saudi would be too.
So it's okay for the Trump administration to sell nuclear technology at a personal profit to the Trump family so that the Saudis can make nuclear weapons, but we are killing people, including our own, to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. Is that a fair characterization of the situation?
With the added specter of nuclear power plants ever more often becoming targets in conventional wars like Ukraine and now Iran as well. The UAE reactors have been attacked. It seemed like a warning shot, but this is becoming too normalized. It's a potential Chernobyl if a nuclear plant gets hit directly by a missile or other explosion.
Well, if that doesn't give you pause to deal with the coming election, I don't know what will. And the other thing, of course, is Trump's war on renewables. And in particular, now, a lot of people on these calls and in the progressive community are paying attention to the Senate race in Michigan. And you, Kevin, are in the middle of that Senate race in Michigan. How has that is it playing out at all with the candidacy of El Said and in that very bitterly contested race?
I have been trying to follow that, and I haven't seen any media coverage. I haven't heard the candidates talking about it. On a more granular level, the U.S. House race in Southwest Michigan, where Palisades is located, it's a real wedge issue in the Democratic primary there. The progressive Democrat upstart, essentially, Diop Harris, who's Black and Potawatomi, is going up against the incumbent. Well, he's not the incumbent U.S. House member. He's the incumbent U.S. State of Michigan senator for Southwest Michigan, who enabled Governor Whitmer to give Holtec $300 million for the restart. So Diop Harris is the progressive, and he's taken an anti-nuclear position, thankfully. And that state senator is Sean McCann. So we'll see how that goes. McCann has more than $2 million in the bank, where Diop Harris has at most 100,000 in the bank. So it's a huge money difference.
Your voice just changed. Kevin, something just happened to your voice.
Money difference.
Kevin, something just happened to your voice. Something happened with your mic there. Anyway, let's. David Saltman, our media maven, has raised his hand. David, did you want to say something? David Saltman, are you there? Asked to unmute. Hold on here.
He's co-hosted.
Okay, David.
Video, Dave, if you got it.
And Kevin, we'll have to get an adjustment to your microphone.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. And then Dorothy Reik.
Unmute here. I'm not being allowed to. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So please explain to me, I'm way behind on this issue, but you guys are you started the Clamshell Alliance. Lovejoy's nuclear war in my world was the key media event of the 60s and 70s. Why can't we do that again? How can this be? You brought nuclear, you guys, you all personally, in my view, may correct me if I'm wrong, destroyed the nuclear industry almost down to the point where there were no reactors left, and they had, canceled California and canceled the one at Indian Point and all that. And now suddenly they're back. Why doesn't somebody where's Sam Lovejoy when we need him? Why don't we knock down the stupid thing?
Well, be careful.
Wait a minute. I'm not advocating violence. When Sam Lovejoy knocked down the weather tower on the Massachusetts plant, he immediately went and turned himself in and admitted that he had done it and made them put him on trial and pleaded self-defense and got away with it. Now, let's do something. We know it's a disaster. Don't tell us how horrible it is. Of course it's horrible. Let's get moving. We don't have much time.
No, we don't.
I rest my case.
Well, thanks for that, David. Dorothy Reik, did you want to jump in on that
I just
one?
wanted to say that Jim Zogby is going to be on a town hall with Syed, PDA town hall at 6 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah,
I tried
6
to put the
o'clock
link in the
Pacific.
chat, but I don't know if it's all in there, but you can just go to PD America and get the link.
Mike HERSH, did you want to give the coordinates for tonight's session with El Said?
Yeah, absolutely. I put that in the chat a few times, probably a lot of times. But I just wanted to mention that what Salty said mirrors exactly what Ralph Nader said. A friend of mine and I were talking about nuclear power, and he's a strong anti-nuke activist. He was working in the New York State Senate for one of the senators there. He recently retired, but he was shocked that nuclear power is on the ascendancy. And I walked him through some of the things we talked about here. And Ralph Nader happened to call him, and he mentioned it to Ralph, and Ralph said, "I thought we put that thing to rest."
Yeah.
And this is what it comes down to. Nuclear power is the zombie power that never died. It's monstrous. It's 100% socialist because it lives off of subsidies, public money, overcharging ratepayers, and public insurance. It's 100% a product of socialism, and it's promoted by all these so-called libertarians who are all a bunch of hypocrites. I would just say this, Salty, all we have to do is knock down what's known as the Price-Anderson Act, or even just make it an issue. And make it an issue that these nuclear power plants are so inherently dangerous that they cannot get insurance on the open market. And as Carl Grossman taught me, not only are they dangerous to themselves, they're dangerous to every homeowner in the United States of America. If you look in the fine print of your homeowner's insurance, Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, it says if your home becomes uninhabitable, unsaleable, and you can't live in it because of a nuclear meltdown or whatever, you're out of luck. Your house is gone, and the insurance companies will not pay you for that. So not only it's a huge public risk to everyone who owns a home, who lives in a home, who breathes air, who walks on the land and drinks water. These things are cancer factories, and we have to shut them down. The idea that people don't realize how horrible they are is because there's been a whole generation and a half since the heyday of the no nukes movement, and these people have never rested. These nuclear zombies have never rested, and you're absolutely
Right.
right, Salty. We have to do something about it. We all know it's horrible. Listing all the horrible things about it is not going to get it done. Too bad Kevin is not here, but
Yeah,
Kevin
Kevin's with
is.
us.
Oh, Kevin's back because Kevin's doing the right thing. You need to go up to these politicians who are begging you for your votes and your money, and tell them no nukes and no vote for you if you support nukes, and definitely no contributions if you're taking money from the nuclear power people. These people are poisoning us. They're causing
Right.
cancer. You know, we tried to get a guest on talking about cigarettes. Cigarettes were horrible.
He'll
Nuclear
be back, I
power
hope.
plants are it's like cancer that you didn't even smoke for. You
Well,
had
one
nothing to
thing,
do with it.
well, one thing that is hopeful, Carl and I put out a piece it started at Counterpunch, it's also freepress.org, about how solartopian technologies, renewable technologies, are really taking over. And Brian, I'll get you in a minute. But there are now 10 countries in the world that get 100 more than 100% of their electricity from renewable energy, wind, water, solar, and battery backup. And some of them, like Norway, are very substantially over 100%. There are four additional countries in the world that get 100%, in other words, all their electricity. So we have 14 countries in the United States, there we go, that get more than 100% or more of their electricity from renewable energy. Can you scroll just down just a bit there, Steve? I want to be able to read the names of the countries on our here. There we are. So the countries that get more than 100% of their electricity from renewable energy are Laos, Paraguay, the Central African Republic, Tajikistan, Norway, Ethiopia, Costa Rica, Zambia, and Lesotho. And these are not small countries. Some of them are, Costa Rica is 5 million, Norway's 5.5 million, but Central African country has 5 million, Tajikistan has 10 million, and Ethiopia, which gets 108% of its electricity from renewables, has 115 million people. You also have Albania, Bhutan, Nepal, and Iceland. And so all these countries, 14 countries of the world now get 100% or more from renewables, as do the states of South Dakota and Montana. Those two states get more than 100% of electricity from renewables. And if you watch these things on YouTube at night, especially about battery technology, I mean, technologically, it's over for nuclear power. I mean, but Trump is not only is supporting nuclear power, he's aggressively attacking renewables. It's unreal what he's doing here. Vina Colley and Heine Vertali, go ahead, please. We'll end at 4 o'clock today, so we got 11 more minutes. Heidi and Vina,
Yes, this is Lina.
go ahead, Vina.
It's amazing to me that the NRC has sold out to, or Trump has taken it over because they don't have any jurisdiction of the radioactive nuclides at the Portsmouth Gas Diffusion Plant or any other plant. So now we got a crazy man who's in charge that nobody else wants to be in charge of. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious to me.
Well, it depends on your sense of humor, I guess. But I did want to throw in one more thing. All these small modular reactors, they are misnamed. The real name for small modular reactors is crypto nukes. These are crypto nukes. It's all for crypto. And then crypto, of course, is all for organized crime. So there you go. Heidi, and then we'll go back to Carl and Kevin. Heidi Vertower?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was driving before. That's why I probably wasn't able to do it. So, anyway, I wanted to know what you folks think about Troy Jackson. He's our new Senate candidate here in Maine, and was wondering what, like, if anybody knows about his nuclear. If not, I can try to look that up for you
Please
and
do.
find out.
And make sure when you meet him that you demand that he knows where he stands on the issue. They shut the Maine, you shut your only atomic reactor at Maine Yankee. But,
Right,
he's going to be a senator. So
right.
and I think he'll win, but only if he supports renewable energy, right, Carl?
Yeah, and Heidi, dig into his record, please, and what he says. And let me note that Heidi is a former student of mine. And,
Oh,
and you'll do a good job. And let me just add here, part of the newest baloney, disinformation and misinformation, which is important to understand how these characters can make this this comeback. I praised the New York Times story about the Trump and his family pushing nukes for profit, and I pointed to a companion piece done a day later, why restarting a nuclear power plant can be much harder than expected. It's all about this mess at Palisades. But in the story, that story, which is not done by investigative reporters, it's done by Rebecca Elliott, who covers energy for the Times. And that can be problematic. I mean, I've been a journalist all my working life, and sometimes journalists get captured by the industry they cover. And in her story, which is good on Palisades and what a mess it is a line about why nuclear power, public attitudes towards nuclear power are improving. And then she gives this big reason, because nuclear reactors can generate electricity around the clock without releasing greenhouse gases.
oh God.
So, I mean, I don't want to give the New York Times an A on their journalism in the last couple of days at long last about nukes, particularly because of that one line. And that's key. The claim we got climate change, we got global warming, and nuclear power plants don't release greenhouse gases. And just very briefly, the nuclear fuel cycle is carbon intensive. Mining, milling, enrichment, carbon dioxide pours out of that process. And then furthermore, nuclear power plants themselves emit carbon 14, a radioactive form of carbon. But in any case, this falsity, this claim that nuclear power is a clean, green, not carbon emitting form of energy, is one of the ways
Big
that
lie.
nuclear power is trying to resell itself now. It goes back, the lies from the nuclear industry, starting with too cheap to meter. That every few years there's a different false claim, and that has given them a real, well, kind of a crutch to push it again.
Well, and what everybody forgets is that nuclear power plants burn at 350 degrees Celsius. I mean, they just directly heat the planet. It's ridiculous. Kevin Camps, you've got a big Senate race going on in Michigan. Has the Palisades issue struck home at all? And are you going to track these candidates, see where they stand?
Yeah, sorry for that technical difficulty before. I followed the U.S. House race in Southwest Michigan much more closely. It's a very stark difference between the two Democratic candidates in the primary. The progressive has taken an anti-Palisade stand, whereas the state senator running for U.S. House was instrumental in getting Holtec the 300 million that Whitmer, the governor, wanted for the restart. So it's a very stark Democratic primary in that U.S. House race. I haven't heard it come up in the U.S. Senate race. I'll do what I can to make it come up, but Yeah, I was going to mention a couple more things in that article about Palisades that, I mean, she got some good scoops that hadn't been reported before, like that Holtec is 2 years behind their own schedule, that they had said they were going to decommission, and then a week after getting the plant, changed their mind towards restart. Of course, it was a lie, so she didn't call it a lie, but it was a lie. And the thing that I wish she had included is that with all this expenditure, 3.5 billion for the restart, they're only going to get 14 months of operation out of these steam generators before they're too dangerous to continue to operate. So she left that out. There were other things she left out. I'd been in contact with her for 2 months, so I'm glad she finally went to press. Holtec is poised to restart. It could happen. In the article, they reported, I think, as early as September. We've heard November. But once they do, they're flirting with a Chernobyl catastrophe.
Boy, it's all terrifying. But the good news is, again, that renewables are just really booming. I really want to urge people to look on YouTube at the shorts they're running about batteries. And I will predict for you right here that the company in the United States that's going to win the race for electric cars is Toyota. I mean, technically it's not an American company, but they certainly manufacture here. And do not buy a new car for 2 years at least, or three at most. 3 years from now, automobile technology will be totally different. And all these electric cars, because of these breakthroughs with the batteries, it is as big a technological changeover as the world has ever seen. Because now renewables are just totally in charge, and electric cars are totally in charge. And it's going to happen. The United States is the only one being shut out because of Trump's tariffs. But Ford has made a whole bunch of decisions that are really bad and very greed oriented, whereas Toyota has been much more far-seeking. And we're going to see Toyota really do a third time. In the 70s, they jumped in on the small cars for fuel efficiency. Then they jumped in with the Prius, only sold 3 million Priuses, for God's sake, completely revised technology. And now you have the Chinese cars, the CATL and the BYD, but they are not going to be able to market in the US the way Toyota is. So you'll hear it 3 years from now. You can give me a buck and tell me I was right about Toyota, as someone who's driving a 2010 Toyota. So, but it's definitely happening. No, do not let anybody tell you under any circumstances that renewable energy is far away. It is totally here. Economically, ecologically, technologically, renewable energy is in the driver's seat. And we just have this lunatic here in the US who's got private profit to make from nuclear and what I call King Kong, coal, oil, nukes, and gas, which we are going to retire to Solartopia. And that'll be my next thing. Next, AI. Next week, we're going to have Patrick Reynolds on. We'll talk about his work. And then on the 7th, and also going to talk about Ukraine next week, by the way, very big deal. Talk about being in the driver's seat. And Myla Reeson, we're almost done. Go ahead, Myla.
Well, I just wanted to jump in and say something about the Chinese cars, and the train behind me seems to agree. The Chinese cars now are very popular in Europe, and partly because they're very posh now. They're very comfortable. They're luxury vehicles, and they're taking over by storm in Europe. And now they're going to be available in Canada. So,
Right.
people just might start driving those cars across the border from Canada to
Well,
the
yeah,
US.
and the American car industry, Trump has killed the American car industry. The American automobile industry has no future because because of the nature of the batteries and how cheap they're going to be. The price of a new automobile is going to drop by half, and it'll be and do you know? Are you ready for this? Do you know how far the new BYD battery goes that can be charged in less than 15 minutes? You can charge the BYD battery in a Chinese electric car, and it will take you 940 miles on a single charge in freezing cold weather with a sodium battery that will not blow up like lithium does. So basically it's game over. Carl and I wrote about it in our piece it's up at thefreepress.org, The Rise of Renewables. Technologically, economically, ecologically, it's over for the internal combustion engine, and it's over for fossil fuels and nuclear power. All we have is this lunatic dragging us down the road here. Steve Caruso, and then we're going to go out. It's 4 o'clock.
Yeah, Toyota for the longest time refused to do EV direct, full EVs. And our hybrids, they brought out the Max, and it really worked on that and did an excellent job. Yep, you got it down to BYD.
That's what they're doing.
But then the other thing you got to remember, the newer cars are going to have the camera watching you as you get in the car, and they're going to make sure you're not drunk, and it's going to be Big Brother in your car. Literally. I mean, didn't Trump sign the order for that, right? You know?
Well, as long as you're not horny, it'll drive okay.
Yeah,
So
right.
drunk is a different story. Listen, Carl, everybody read my piece with Carl and Art's piece, which went up at Counterpunch and freepress.org. Thank you, Steve, for putting up there. Everybody, this is a phenomenal session. We are going to save this election and we're going to save this planet. Okay? 2 small items, and we'll have to start by shutting Diablo Canyon, which we didn't talk about today, but we'll get to next week. Carl, Kevin, thank you so much. Everybody, we're going to come back with election protection. We'll take an extra 20 minutes, go walk around before you toke up, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mike. No nukes, everybody.